What is it? That's a good point. So all those things you just talked about, I agree. I think in some ways I think of Kumo Space as like the anti-social media. Social media is anti-social. You sit there by
Mm-hmm.
yourself, you're typing, you're commenting, you're lurking, right? It's asynchronous. You don't really get that joy that you get when you see a friend and you give them a hug and you get to connect. Or even if you're at a conference and you are listening to the speaker, but really see someone interesting across the room and you share a moment and you start up a conversation.
It's time to reimagine events. Unfortunately, in the past 2 years, many events were postponed while others chose a virtual or hybrid model, and some no longer exist. My name is Georgie-Ann, and I am the CEO and founder of GSD Solutions. At GSD Solutions, we've been exploring virtual events since 2016. And in the past 18 months, we've produced over 200 virtual events. We're inviting virtual platforms, industry experts, and service providers to talk to you all about what the events industry will look like.
Welcome to another episode of Events Reimagined. Today I have Brett, one of the co-founders of Kumo Space, here with us, and he'll be talking a lot about the platform in just a moment. If this is your first time joining us for an episode of Events Reimagined, it is a series that is brought to you by GSD Solutions, focusing on how we can reflect on what events and virtual events have looked like in the past and how we can reimagine what the events industry will look like in the present and the future. So we interview and talk to various industry experts, platform builders, services, tools, and providers that are in what we now look at as a whole events industry that includes hybrid tools, in-person event tools, as well as completely virtual and online tools. If this is your first time joining us, my name is Georgie-Ann, and I'm the CEO and founder of GSD Solutions. We are a business development agency that specializes in virtual event production. Again, I have Brett Martin here from Kumo Space, and Brett, I'll hand it over to you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Howdy. Well, thank you for having me, Georgie. I'm Brett Martin. I'm from Ocean City, Maryland. It's a small mid-Atlantic beach town, and I'm founder of Kumo Space, co-founder of Kumo Space. Me and my buddy Yang Mao started this actually right in the middle of the pandemic when we used to host a monthly get-together for angel investors, and we would share deals and get Chinese food and all hang out. And then the pandemic hit and they said, "Oh, you got to take that on Zoom," and we kind of realized, well, that just completely defeats the purpose because no one wants to listen to me give a PowerPoint presentation, nor do I want to give a PowerPoint presentation for my friends every month. We want a place where people could naturally interact and connect with each other, and so that's why we built Kumo Space.
Awesome. So thank you so much for that introduction. And mind you telling us, what did you do before Kumo Space? Like, what field were you in? Because I think it's really interesting from some of the episodes that we've had to see the background of like the founders. Like,
Uh,
one person was like a journalist before, and it's like, journalist, virtual event platform. How did we get here?
well, yeah, so that'll all tie in, I guess. So I I've basically been a founder or an investor in startups my entire career.
Nice.
I built my first company was a company called Sonar, and it was around 2011, and it was a part of the social local mobile revolution, which was back when they thought that the next big social network was going to be kind of a mobile app after Facebook, and Sonar pulled the data from your Facebook and your LinkedIn, your Twitter, and Foursquare, and basically all your social networks, and then used it to connect you with people nearby, which
Hmm.
was a beautiful concept, really fun. People loved it, but really difficult business to run. Very hard to create kind of like density in the physical world and actually get people to move from one physical place to the next. So in that sense, you know, Kumo Space is a kind of the same concept, but built for the internet. It actually takes advantages of the internet. You can get infinite people into one room. You can have people from all over the world in the same room. You can create density, but the core concept is the same, which is how do you create authentic human interaction and help people build and deepen their relationships? And we're just doing it on the internet this time.
I love that what you said about authentic human interaction and just, doing it on the internet, because I think what came before with like the Facebooks and chat platforms and AOL Messenger was us just trying to communicate far, like it was like a slightly bit above the telephone. But what we're doing now with this virtual ecosystem, virtual event, we're building relationships, we're building interactions, we're having people literally, I've had events and heard stories of people like falling in love, meeting their co-founders, meeting their team members, godparents of their children, completely in this virtual ecosystem before they've ever like held hands or seen each other in person. So, you mentioned a little bit about Kumo Space so far, and people are wondering. Tell us a little bit more about Kumo Space. Let's dive in. So you had Sonar before, then you started Kumo Space. What was that journey like, and what was the pivotal moment that had you guys start Kumo Space? So just tell us the journey.
What is it? That's a good point. So all those things you just talked about, I agree. I think in some ways I think of Kumo Space as like the anti-social media. Social media is anti-social. You sit there by yourself, you're typing, you're commenting, you're lurking, right? It's asynchronous. You don't really get that joy that you get when you see a friend and you give them a hug and you get to connect. Or even if you're at a conference and you are listening to the speaker, but really you see someone interesting across the room and you share a moment and you start up a conversation. And that's, I thought in 2020 it was kind of crazy that here we are in 2020, we can do all this crazy technology, but there's still not a good platform where people can go hang out and have a party online, right? There's not a place where you can go and network. And so you have a lot of these virtual event platforms, which are really great as like broadcasts, right? One person speaking, 10,000 people listening, like sitting in an audience at an event. There were a lot of great tools for that. But what we didn't see was tools that really, was the other half of why you go to events. I mean, for me, I rarely listen to the content. I usually go to meet people, and I'm trolling around in the back by the bar and meeting people and trying to find some deals. And that part was still missing in virtual events in 2020. So that was why we built Kumo Space. And sort of the core concept is instead of being in a Brady box of a Zoom event and everyone's in a little square and only one person could talk, Kumo Space is like a virtual space. So what we do is we create virtual spaces where you can put hundreds, thousands of people, and then they can move around in a virtual space, like almost like a video game, and talk to the people that are nearby, strike up conversations. And then if you get bored of that conversation and you want to talk to someone else, you can just move. And so that's really a really new form of interaction, kind of a many to many to many sort of interaction, synchronous. And then there's also the place that we put you. So rather than Zoom, which is kind of like, if we were, old friends and we were catching up in New York City, we probably wouldn't, rent a closet and go sit in it and stare at each other. We'd probably go to the park. We would take a walk around Madison Square Park. We might go to, a bar. Even if we weren't there to talk to other people, we'd go to a bar just to have the ambiance. And so Kumo Space enables event organizers to create like rich, immersive experiences for their guests. So you can have a Kumo Space on the beach. You can have a Kumo Space in a classroom. You can have an auditorium. You can have a rooftop bar. You can have custom built environments just for whatever the experience is you're trying to create for your guests or your sponsors.
Yeah, and I love that customization element, and I really like what you mentioned about social media isn't really that anymore, right? It was like first you were socializing, and I think oftentimes people would come on at the same time, kind of like on after school or weekends or holidays and things like that, and like be able to have real-time conversations. But now, like you said, it's just a broadcast. Like, hey, here's something that I'm doing at some point, and we could see it a day. And with the algorithms nowadays, you could see it the minute it's posted, or you can see it 3 days after it's been posted, a week later. And so now with virtual event platforms, you're putting together people in a community, putting them together at the same time, at the same place to do something together the way we would in real life. So I really like that. So I know we were discussing before, could we see a little bit of like Kumo Space and how this functionality works? You say, it's super customizable. So if you want to go ahead and share your screen, I'll bring it up so that way we could take a look at what Kumo Space looks like.
Yeah, let's do it. Here, I'll pull up Kumo Space. So we're about to enter my Kumo Space called Charge. And you just pop in like this. You can share it with a link. That's one of the best things. Takes no, your guests don't have to install anything. You can just send this link, kumospace.com/charge. You get your own personalized URL. We're going to click join. So these are my rooms. We got lots of different options.
Halloween party, beach.
Let's check out the Halloween. So one cool thing we do is we create custom content for every different season. And so here I am. So I landed in a virtual room, right? This is our Halloween. We got pumpkins. We got ghost. You can click on the ghost. I don't know if you can hear that scary ghost sound, and cruise around. And so this is what I mean. It's somewhat of a combination of video chat and a video game. So I'll grab a cocktail here. I can hang out. We can click on the cat and hear that. And then, I like to have my meetings. And this is what I do. I do actually all my meetings for my company in here. Obviously, this is a lot more fun with people in the room. And so what's really cool is if you see this little circle around me, this light circle, that's basically the range. So anyone inside that I can hear and see, and anyone outside that I can't. And what that lets me happen is, if you imagine 100 people in this room, they could all be milling around, grabbing their own drinks, clicking on the ghost, and having their own conversations. And so that's an example of our Halloween room. Let's say you wanted a very different vibe. You could just exit and you could come out. This is our room. My rooms are always a mess because I'm always hosting, but you can see right here, you got the ocean sounds.
Hear the beach.
Yeah, you can hear the beach, right? So that's the idea. I'm from the beach. We can click on this if you want. We have all sorts of tools to collaborate. So this is an example of a third-party integration in Kumo Space. So a lot of companies are using us as a virtual office. So people will use this virtual office. This was us. We were designing, some slides for our deck. You could collaborate. We could, create our own graphics. And so we just think the future of working together is less screen sharing and more actually being immersed in an environment and working together.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. And you see there's I think chess on yeah, I definitely agree with this, and I love how this looks. So talk to me about how the ease of use, how easy is this to set up and use and work this platform?
Absolutely. Well, right now, you talked about the chess. So I can get a game of chess right now. I'm playing against some random stranger somewhere on the internet right now. But if we were in the same room, we could play. We could play against each other. But this is how easy it is. So Kumo Space literally takes 3 clicks to get your own space, and that's why we're a bit different than all the other event platforms, in the sense that they're very B2B focused. They're get started. You have to talk to sales and get a demo. Kumo Space, you can go and sign up before I finish speaking, right? And because of that, we actually have millions of consumers that are using Kumo Space every day to have their they're having birthday parties in here. They're having bat mitzvahs in here. We've had you talked about it. We've had weddings in Kumo Space. We've had funerals in Kumo Space. We've had graduations in Kumo Space. And so consumers are just setting this up and doing it on their own. And that's how event organizers find us, is because usually someone invites them to a Kumo Space party and they say, hey, maybe I could use this for my corporate all hands or my product launch or a big conference that I'm going to hold.
Nice. And so, like you just said, it's more B2C, which you're definitely right. A lot of the folks that we've been interviewing in the Events Reimagined series and just companies that we know of has been a lot of B2B. So let's say, I'm a user, B2C, I come in here, I see all this cool stuff. Do I need to know how to code? Do I need to, how technical does it get for me to have these nice couches? Do I have to design it myself? Do I have to request the design? Does it cost me to, so talk to me about if I want to add cool features to my map and these chairs and tables and all that good stuff.
So it's good that you brought that up. So check this out. I'm going to give you a quick little demo, since I'm still screen sharing. This is our disco room, right? But here's the thing. We want everyone to have this power. That's sort of the core thinking behind Kumo Space, is that post pandemic, everyone is a virtual event organizer. So historically, event organizer, right? They were only specialists like yourself, and you were throwing big 1,000-person events. And obviously, there's still professional event organizers. But our thinking is that now everyone's an event organizer, whether you're hosting a happy hour for your team of 10 people, or you're just trying to get your friends together to watch, Netflix or have a family reunion, right? And no one's providing these amateur event organizers with any tools,
Yeah.
right? No one's like really helping them. Like, yeah, if you have a team of people producing and creating content and getting guest speakers, like that's awesome, but that, costs big money. And what if you just want to do something for your team? Everyone now is working remote and they have to sort of get their team together for a happy hour. How do you make that fun? And so we've tried to make it so easy. So watch this. I'm going to take this um, the disco room, and I got the little edit tab here, and I'm going to
Yeah.
turn this in a couple seconds. I'm actually going to turn this into a park. So I can just delete all of this just by just literally clicking around. Now
Yeah.
I've got this. I'm going to actually throw in, let's see, what should we do here? We can get let's get a little beach blanket up in this place. We'll throw a pride flag down there. We can throw some, throw some trees. My team, they love plants, so we'll throw some ash trees in here. We'll make a little forest scene. Maybe I'll throw in a cooler, and the idea is just that quickly, you can basically set up, a Kumo Space and turn disco into a picnic, and that's the idea.
Nice.
Now, that's for anyone, but the idea is that if you're an event organizer and you're an event designer, wow, imagine what you could do. You no longer your sponsors, they don't have to just get like some colors somewhere and their logo. You can build a devoted space to if you had Coca-Cola, you could build a polar bear room. If you had
Mhm.
Samsung, you could build a Galaxy headquarters, and really like impress your sponsors to the level of customization.
Nice. And so I saw you just, you have some assets there. Like, let's say, like you mentioned, like Coca-Cola polar bears, right? Could I upload like a JPEG or like a PNG of my polar bear and upload it and put it right in there?
Yep, absolutely. So
Nice.
we've got this
Oh, custom
concept
assets. Nice. Yeah.
of custom images. So
Mhm.
let's see.
I guess
Let's throw this Giphy in here. We'll do a little search. Let's search for a polar
Monday. I
bear.
like the little one with the dog. The Monday.
Oh yeah, wait, I missed it. So let's say
I
we
saw
wanted to get
it.
this guy hanging out,
Ah.
right? Like he could just be hanging out. Now that wasn't the best GIF. You want to find one with a transparency, and my team is like really amazing at this. They can help you out, but you could get
Mhm.
a one that looks like the polar bear. He's actually just hanging out
And like doing his little dance in the
in the
room. Nice.
space. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this. Love, love, love this. So, now let's talk about is there before we do go back to our conversation, is there anything else that you'd like to share with me on how Kumo Space looks and works?
Oh man, well, there's so many things, but let's see. Where else should I go? I'll exit out of here, and let's see.
I have a
I
question. Can I
think.
make a private space? So you mentioned, people
Oh
having it,
yeah.
so I can make like a completely private space where it's like link only and stuff like that.
Exactly. So if I wanted to, close this room, it's a very good thing. If I wanted to close this room, I can just close it. No one can enter. So we have a lot of teachers that want
Mm-hmm.
to close the room in between in between lessons. They don't want the students hanging out by themselves. Um, but if you get a paid plan, a lot of corporations that use this for their internal meetings and things like that, they want to be able to put up a guest list, gate only to people with certain email domains, or if you're throwing a big paid event, you want to have a guest list in here. Uh, you can totally, you secure the room and lock it down to, just the people you want.
Nice. Awesome. And so, I want to now talk a little bit more about like the act of building the platform. So, what did it take to build? Again, it's the middle of the pandemic. You guys are like, we want something better. Um, did your team build it? But did you code it yourself? Did your team build it yourself? And just what did it take to build it? And the second part of that question is, what did you find as the biggest challenge while building Kumo Space?
Well, all credit has to go to my co-founder Yang. Yang is the definitely the technical brains behind the operation. I'm more the moral support when it comes to
Moral
the coding
support.
side of things.
Like, keep
Pretty
going.
Yeah, I'm a pretty bootleg coder, maybe like a C plus maybe. Um, but yeah, Yang built the original version, all by himself. And then now since then we've built out a team of great engineers that love playing video games and working on product. But in the very beginning, the core concept, that concept of spatial audio, the idea that I could hear things close to me and people close to me and not things far away in the same virtual space. Yang built it in a couple of weeks. He basically built a little demo where, I was a BM and you were a GG. And if we, got close to each other, we could hear each other loud. We didn't even have video, we didn't have a background, but this concept of a virtual space. And we were like, wow, that works really cool. What if we threw our videos in there and used our videos as the avatar, just like a video game, but our video is the avatar. And we did that and we were like, wow, this is something different. This is a totally different type of interaction that we've never been able to have before. So we started started thinking about it in March, started coding on it in June, and launched by August.
Nice.
And the thing just grew organically, and then just been growing ever since. So we went from a few hundred users to now hundreds of thousands every month.
Nice. And I love that journey. And so and I think what you just mentioned about the spatial audio, we've seen in, like you said, like video games, and like if if you're synced up with like your team member and then you guys could talk, if somebody's like on your same like chat or whatever. But I think when you add that layer of, I can see your face, I can see, instead of an avatar, there are a bunch of platforms that, I personally have a little bias against the avatar ones, but they're good for what they're good for. But when you can see a person, right, especially because it's that human connection, it's not like we're in a different universe. I think when you're fully submerged into a video game and too much of an avatar, you're in a different universe. But when I could see, oh, this is Brett talking to me and this is Georgie talking back, it breaks down that barrier. Like, this is not a different universe, another reality where we have to potentially put on a different face. Like, this is us talking together. This is us knowing the real person behind the screen. And I think, that combats a little bit of like internet normalities that we've come to see with like catfishing and things like that, where it's like, no, you're not talking to somebody blank and miscellaneous. Like, this is me, this is you. We see our faces, we hear our voices. So I love that. And what was like the biggest challenge while building Kumo Space? It could be a technical thing, it could be a non-technical, or just something that completely surprised you.
Well, you make a good point. That's one of the things that when we first started, we honestly didn't know. We were like, are people gonna think this is silly? Are people gonna are companies gonna use this? Like, we had no idea, or people are like, oh, this is so weird, this is so different. But we were pleasantly surprised to learn that people just got it. A lot of times when I've been building software my whole life, and a lot of times it's hard. People don't understand. It's a new interaction, and how does this work? And like, because we are mimicking some of the things about the natural physical world, the idea that things are louder when you're closer and quieter when they're further away, and that you can move around the space because people know what to do in a space. People automatically get it. And so we were pleasantly surprised that whether you're a teenager and you're watching Netflix with your friends, or you're the CEO of a company and you're giving a presentation to your whole team, Kumo Space is intuitive for both of them. And that was one of the things we thought was the biggest challenge. And so one thing we have heard from a bunch of folks is that there are things with avatars, and where people can be an avatar. And I think that maybe that works well sometimes for kids that are like playing on the internet and want to have a different identity, and I totally see the space for that. But where Kumo Space really shines is that it feels more professional because you are your video. It feels more human. It feels more something that companies are comfortable using, and that's a lot of the feedback we've gotten. So we went from being like, is this going to be like too much of a toy, or are people going to really use this, to, oh wow, we actually are like considered one of the more professional solutions in the space, was a pleasant surprise.
And I love that. And so what do you think was like a challenge that came up while building it? Was it that it was like a surprise, like a dual thing, or was there something else that like came up as maybe like even like a roadblock at any point?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to build a software platform that supports, 10,000 people online at the exact same time. Like that's a lot of video. And what people maybe don't always appreciate is that, everyone's like, oh, well, Zoom, you can have a 1,000-person event on Zoom. And I'm like, yeah, but you only see one person at a time. Maybe if you scroll out, you can see maybe, I don't know, 4 times 8 or
Like,
something, or
yeah, like
36
30 or
people,
something. Yeah.
right? But those people can't, they're not even talking. They're on mute, right? Whereas in Kumo Space, we have thousands of people that are all broadcasting. They all have a voice. They're all participating. They can all talk, talk to whomever is near them. And, that's a big breakthrough from a user activity standpoint, right? Like it's not a lean back, it's not a broadcast. You're not just turning off your video and going to cooking dinner while you're at the event. If you do that, people are going to just walk away. They're not going to listen to you, right? You're not participating. We view Kumo Space as like a participatory event
Hmm.
platform. That's why it's so good for things that are like networking and learning and development and sales. That's why people use Kumo Space for that. And so that was not easy to build. I again can't take credit for it. That's all my co-founder Yang. He's the mastermind. But now we're doing events with we did one with 100,000
Wow.
registrations last week.
Wow, congratulations on that. And you touched upon this in a few different ways, but I just want to, get the answer for the audience really directly. What if you could name two different groups of people that Kumo Space is like this, you shouldn't even consider any other platform. So like who would be your two ideal users for Kumo Space?
So there's four core use cases:
Okay.
work, events, education, and social and play. Um, and I think what's really cool about Kumo Space is that people often find us for social and then they bring us to work.
Mm,
So today's birthday party guest is tomorrow's, happy hour host, and tomorrow's happy hour host, then those are family reunion, and some of the family reunion takes it in their company and uses it for a product launch. Because again, we think of ourselves just as the best tool for building these immersive virtual environments and creating, sharing, and consuming these like fun virtual places to hang out.
mhm.
Um, but if I had to, pick one, I think like one thing, like companies love using us for their happy hours, for their all hands, for their learning and development, for their sales training, for their sales enablement. HR folks love us for recruiting and onboarding people. And so what we find is a lot of companies will use us for an event, whether that's an internal or external or even a hybrid, and then
Mhm.
they keep using us uh, you know, ongoing past that because they're like, wow, we now have a place to hang out online. Let's keep going back in. And so yeah, so I'd say the main core use case is people use us for some sort of event, and then they end up continuing to use us as a virtual office.
Nice. And so what I heard there really strongly was just the socialization. So if you have an event or something that requires a lot of socialization, Kumo Space is the place to go. If it's more like you said, like a broadcast or just a stream, it may not, be the best fit. You can use it for that, but the place where people thrive the most is immersive experiences that have socialization, people talking to each other as a key element, talking and interacting with each other as a key element. Um,
Wow, we gotta get you on payroll. You said it better than I did. Yeah, it's all about participation. Events where participation matters, or networking, or building a human connection with the other people there, not just consuming the content, but building relationships. That's what we strive to do.
Awesome. And so now we're coming to the end of our conversation. So I wanted to ask a question, what advice do you want to leave with the virtual events industry, the events industry as a whole? What do you want to share with folks? Again, you guys, congratulations, are one of the COVID babies, as people are calling them, the COVID baby startups that, came and are still thriving and growing. But a lot of people are nervous, like, is the space still open? Is it opportunity to innovate? Is there still room? So what would your advice be to folks that are, in this industry or wanting to get inside of the industry?
Oh, I think it's just beginning. I think that the fact that now the people, everyone in the event industry thought that they had one line of business, which was bringing together audience, content, and sponsors. And they thought that it had to be in a physical place. And then in 2020, they realized we actually have two lines of business. One is doing that, bringing together audience, content, and sponsors in one place. And then the other line is doing it online. And those are not substitutes, but they're complements, because online is always going to be different than offline. It's always going to be cheaper. You're always going to need less time to set it up. You're always going to be able to get speakers from all over the world. You're always going to be able to get audience from all over the world. You're going to be able to get better analytics. And now with tools like Kumo Space, you're going to be able to create immersive experiences that you couldn't possibly do, in the offline world. And so my feeling is that we are just at the tip. Like, people are worried about, virtual events, are they boring? Can you monetize them? And my argument would be, just wait. In 5 years, you're gonna have South by Southwest. People are gonna go to Austin. They're gonna drink, they're gonna eat barbecue and drink beer together, a couple 100,000. But you're gonna have 1 million people at the virtual South by Southwest,
drinking beer and having barbecue,
drinking virtual beers, running around across. There's gonna be tens of thousands of vendors from all over the world. There's gonna be amazing, sponsorships, and people are going to be able to engage in a whole way that they were never able to. And if you don't think that people are going to be able to monetize that, then you're going to be leaving a lot of money on the table.
Absolutely. Love that. Yes, as Brett said, there's just so much room. We are at the tip. This is the initial point. We are still at the beginning, very much so. Virtual events were here before the pandemic, and they will be here a lot longer. Remote work, the hybrid world is here. Like, it is here finally. Like, it kind of just kind of popped its bubble. Like, it's now people realize it was there kind of like lurking, but now it's like, oh, it's here, it's clear. And so, take advantage of it while we can. So thank you so much again, Brett, for being a part of this conversation. Folks that are tuning in, definitely look below in the description area to find out more about Kumo Space. Get on a demo. And like Brett said, it's very easy to set up. They have, you guys do have a freemium model where it's like you can have like a small account.
You can set up your own room.
Yeah, you can start today. So you can definitely start today by using Kumo Space. And if you do need additional support for a virtual event production, you can always reach out to GSD Solutions. So thank you again so much for your time, Brett, and everyone. Check out Kumo Space and get inside of those virtual immersive experiences.
Thank you so much for having me, Georgie-Ann. It was an absolute pleasure.
If you're ready to reimagine events, head on over to gsdsolutions.xyz. We look forward to seeing you at Events Reimagined.